Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry to, this is already late in the day, but let's get started. We'll get there. I'm Siddharth, Bhatia, Product Manager for Attack Surface Management.
I'm Russ, Sanderlin, Director, Subject Matter Expert of the VMDR product.
Okay. So you heard our CEO and other presenters talk about Enterprise True Risk Platform. Three key functions: measure, communicate, and eliminate risk. So here, essentially de-risking your business. So the topic for today, and we're delighted to talk about how do you reduce and communicate your cyber risk effectively with your key stakeholders using executive-ready reports, right? So as leaders in cybersecurity and risk management, it's our duty to generate and help you with these reports so you can bridge the gap of this complex cybersecurity with your decision makers in a way that they understand in a language that they appreciate, right? So let's talk about a few of the challenges that we face today for communicating these effectively. So the first one, typically your reports may not be clear and actionable. You may go into different modules like CSAM, VMDR, download scan results. You don't know what columns to select. Download these CSV reports, becomes not so actionable, right? It's like random CSV reports, dashboards. Often at times, your reports, when you do generate or try to create an executive level report, it's overloaded with too much data, too many tables, and all of that. Now, we do understand that CSV reports, dashboards, a way of communicating to your CMDBs, they are all important for different personas. Your vulnerability management engineer would need a detailed report of your scan results versus an asset inventory view or a downloaded asset view report for your IT inventory team. But here we are talking about the executive level reports, which your stakeholders would appreciate, right? The information is not simple enough to consume. Now, a lot of times talking to customers, what we realized is they are downloading these reports, CSV reports, dashboards, transforming that, having your in-house sort of manual ETL, transforming those in Excel sheets, PowerPoints, and then trying to present that data. So at the end of it, you become master of, like Sailesh mentioned, master of VLOOKUP rather than focusing on the risk, right? So now, what does a key stakeholder need, right? Of course, executive-ready reports. So the first part, the measure, and let's talk about some of the key ingredients, what you would necessarily need to generate these reports and how we can help. The first one is complete and categorized data and the visibility of all your assets, internal as well as external, right? Having that business context enriched on your assets, and CSAM does help you with getting that business context from your CMDBs like ServiceNow, BMC Helix, and we recently launched an Active Directory connector where you can actually take the organizational unit information and enrich your asset with that context. Findings, which are enriched with our threat intelligence feeds and software lifecycle information that cybersecurity asset management gets you, right? And of course, bubbling up the assets using the true risk, right? So effectively, when you have all of this context, it's time to communicate these with one-click reports that you can download now from Qualys for the three modules that we have, which is external attack surface management, cybersecurity asset management tech debt, and VMDR true risk. So these will be available for these three modules. The CSAM, the EASM reports, by the way, if you haven't collected your reports outside, you should do it. And if we don't have it today, there'll be a QR code at the end of the presentation. Scan that, leave us a request, and we'll get back to you with your report. All right. So excited to show you the external attack surface management and what the report looks like. So let's talk about EASM first. And as you heard Kunal talk about EASM yesterday and the importance of identifying previously unknown internet-facing assets, and not just for your organization, but also of your subsidiaries and merger acquisitions, right? And then having all of that data and summarizing that into an executive report, which tells the story and also looks pretty enough, right? So let's take a look at a sample report. All right. So here's a sample report, and these printouts, as I said, you can take your own EASM report of your organization from the Q&A bar. So the first page itself, it starts with actually telling the whole narrative about what the discovery process of this of the EASM is and what seed values we took to identify, categorizing or summarizing the asset attack surface inventory view into a compressed one screen, summarizing the risk on your internet-facing assets, and then what you need to prioritize, right? So this index itself, it tells a story. So now this is a very important screen, and if you do collect your ESM reports, the first part of this actually tells how we actually identified your internet-facing assets. So what we need is just the organization name and the domain name, right? And our catalog team, this is an ongoing process where we try to find your subsidiaries, merger acquisitions using open source intelligence, other tools, and try to index these for our customers, right? So what you would need and how we generated those reports is just using your top level domain or organization name, right? The next view, which shows the attack surface summary of how many internet-facing assets we discovered. The second tab, which shows 2,100 assets not monitored in VMDR. So what does that mean? Of course, when we discover using EASM some of your internet-facing assets, you may not be scanning some of them, right? Or you may be scanning half of them. So anything that you're not actively scanning using Qualys, it would show up as assets not monitored in VMDR, right? All right. So again, summarizing how many organizations, subsidiaries we discovered using that one seed value, domains, subdomains, potential database servers, web app servers on using that seed value for your organization or subsidiaries, right? Again, breaking that organization group into top organizations that we discovered for that seed value, it shows, hey, this organization called Acme Corp has 357 assets versus another organization has these many internet-facing assets, right? It just gives you a good overview look. And of course, all these, this is from a summary report, but all of this data in detail, if you have a subscription with CSAM and you have ESM discovered, you will see all of these details, all of these in detail, right? So again, breaking down into how many of your internet-facing assets are on different cloud providers. So again, this gives a very interesting view of, like, you have authorized AWS or GCP, but you see your instances hosted on other cloud providers like IBM or Alibaba, and that gives you a notion like, hey, what are my assets doing there, right? Is some of your developer just spun up this, or any of your acquisition or subsidiary spun up an instance on a different cloud provider that you have not authorized, right? Internet-facing assets by risk. This is the vulnerabilities that we found with our third-party sources on those assets, and just bubbling up by high, medium, low. And this is the true risk score, just by high, medium, low. Right? Top risky domains, subdomains, so you get to see your top domains here, which we discovered, identified using the ESM discovery process. Again, the details are in your subscription if you log in and check that out, right? Interesting view here, top risky ports, top open ports, and how many unique open ports are there on your internet-facing assets. Now, there was an example, one of our customers saw this report, and I won't name, but they had like about 400 unique open ports open on their internet-facing assets. Now, they were shocked to learn that there are so many distinct open ports internet-facing. Why would that be? And that like triggered a lot of questions internally for them. So this is a very interesting view. Risky open ports, right? So now we have all the open ports that we discovered. We categorize them as risky. So of course, you don't want to have 25 of your assets internet-facing to have an RDP port open, right? SSH, again, risky. Database open ports, right? What are database open ports doing on internet-facing assets? Are those just spun up by our developers? You need to monitor them or like close them, right? We discovered the application stack, just showing the top application stack on your internet-facing assets. Just again, a quick view of that. And then top vulnerabilities on the internet-facing assets, what we see as CVEs with the QVS score on the assets, right? Again, we have, last but not least, the certificate posture of your internet-facing assets. So it's just enough information for all the certificates that we discovered and scanned. We saw, and we actually grade them by A, T, and C. If you're using SSL Labs, you're aware of these gradings. Cert view, you'll be aware of these gradings, A being good, T being untrusted, so you know what is untrusted for your internet-facing assets across your organizations, right? Again, expiring certificates, and not just showing you what's expired today, but what's going to expire in next 30, 90, 60 days, right? So it gives you time to fix those. Now, summarizing all of that into one view to prioritize. So this is a very interesting view where we see how many assets in total we have on the internet, how many of them are at risk, and breaking that risk by vulnerabilities, database ports, risky open ports, expired certificates, right? So that covers the EASM summary report. And if you haven't still collected, please do. Okay. So the next summary report, executive summary report we have is for the tech debt with our cybersecurity asset management module, where you can identify business critical assets and softwares in an organization that are end of life, end of support. So basically, your life cycle information, and not just for software, but hardware and operating system, right? So you get that visibility into that. It will help you prioritize your end of support software with vulnerabilities, specifically because there are no patches available on your end of support software. So if there are vulnerabilities on such assets with those softwares, you should fix them first, right? And then, of course, taking all of this information, building an executive report out of it. So let's take a look at the executive report for tech debt. Again, starting with the index, gives you a quick narrative on what the report contains, the scope of your tech debt, summarized by risk, and then recommendations, of course, right? So let's start with this view. And this gives an overview, a summarized view of all the assets, at least scoped for this report. And you could select it by tags. You could include all your assets based on tags or just everything, right? And in this example, we are showing you have 14,000 total assets from this scope, and out of those 14,000, 6,000 are with your tech debt, right? That means something is, there's some life cycle issue with your operating system, hardware, or software, right? And out of those 6,000, 900 are critical, And how do we define this criticality? By asset criticality score. And also, if you're using CSAM, we enrich that asset criticality using business applications, the data we sync from CMDBs, right? So if you're not using CSAM, you should start using it. Again, breaking and slicing, dicing that information into operating system, hardware, and software. How many of those in each category are under support, right? Now, the reason we are slicing, dicing this information, because you may have different teams look into fixing your operating system, a different team looking at the hardware, a different team looking at the software, right? Upgrading all of these different categories. So operating system, breaking down by category, how many of my Mac or Windows are under support. By subcategory, how many of them are deployed on a client server, a client machine, or a server machine, right? Top hardware categories, which are obsolete, gives you a good overview of that. And the support software, right? So here, we are not just doing lifecycle information on the software. What we are also doing is showing you open source versus commercial. So we are actually distinguish between the license types also, right? So you can focus on probably your open source, which is under support to begin with, right? This is a cool overview of how many end of support softwares you have with critical vulnerabilities on them, right? Again, putting them on a timeline, showing, sorry about that, yeah. End of support with critical ones. So you can see how many end of support softwares are there and how much percentage of those have critical vulnerabilities on them, right? This view, so top critical vulnerabilities affecting end of support software, right? Yeah. And then the recommendations. So with these recommendations, we give you some actionable insights into, hey, you can actually upgrade your Apache Tomcat server because it has 7 unique end of support versions running on your assets, and we recommend it to be upgraded to 10.1 or higher. Or example, Python, we found 16 different versions of it, and we recommend you to upgrade it to 3.12, for example, right? So this actually completes our tech debt report, and the ESM report is available, ready to use. We have it printed for you. You you enable your CSAM ESM module, and you will get that. Tech debt report, it's work in progress, and we would like your feedback. And yeah. Yeah.
Mic off. All right, thank you, Sid. All right, the True Risk report. How many of you all have operationalized True Risk in your environment? Thank you, guys. Thanks. And are you familiar with the basics of how True Risk works in Qualys? We've talked a lot about it during this session. So this True Risk is a culmination of the work that you're putting in to measure the risk in your environment, right? This is the communicate part, one of the communication options you have to communicate a very simple and easy to understand digestible number to senior stakeholders. It's like a credit score for risk across the organization. What's in the picture, and which I'll be showing you here in the report, is a roll-up of all the average of all the True Risk scores across all of your assets. And again, this is a simplified, consolidated view of risk across the organization. This True Risk report focuses on the external and the most risky assets in your organization as well. So, I mean, you're getting an overall high-level view of how you're looking from a program maturity standpoint, but it's also pointing out some of the points of improvement. And what do you do with that, right? What do we do with it? Now that we had this information, we were going to work to implement plans to reduce risk. We're going to eliminate that risk. So I'm going to go directly into the report and go and show you that. All right. Similar to the EASM and the tech debt report. What's up? Okay. All right. Oh, it's not showing up on the screen for some reason. I need to come out of presentation mode. There we go. Yeah, there we go. The True Risk Report is broken down into basically 3 sections. The first part is the summary based on the true risk metrics that we're generating within the qual solution. The second is the overview of risk, and we'll get into that a little bit here. And the third part is, great, what do we do with this information? What can I do to proactively reduce risk in my environment? Overall, this is our general score that we can use, and in this, you can also select the tags that you want to be able to use in this, but this is just assuming no tags are selected, so it's taking all your asset information, all the true risk information, and pulling it together. And this represents 160,000 assets. You may be familiar with the trend line down at the bottom. It's similar to the widget calculation that we're doing, or the trending that we're doing over the course of 90 days. This score represents weaponized vulnerabilities, publicly exploited vulnerabilities, associated threat actors, anything that's on the CISA known exploitable list, and all of our external assets. We can even the second page here breaks this down from a tag perspective, especially in environments where tags are done in such a way that you use them for reporting, where we can have a lot of strength here and we can potentially gamify or look at things from a regional aspect, because the first slide showed us holistically as a company, okay, this is our score, but what about what our North American business unit's doing versus what our EMEA and our APAC business units are doing, or down even at smaller levels, what about just certain regions? We can see as senior decision makers where we need to put our time and resources to reduce risk in the organization. And as a tip here, this yellow box here, if you're familiar with true risk, the score that we assign to a vulnerability, the quality detection score, is recalculated, at least on a daily basis. However, the score that we're assigning to an asset is based on a weighted average of those individual vulnerability scores multiplied times the asset criticality score. The asset criticality score is what you would assign to your assets using tags or through asset groups, which also create tags in and of themselves. So this is important in order to get this view as well to determine. And what you're seeing here is that on the left column is the what's considered low or medium true risk, because we have 4 brackets: critical, high, medium, and low. So we're seeing that for the most part in this view, we're looking good from an organizational standpoint, but we've got 5 assets and 2 tags, 10 assets total, that have a very high true risk score, and these are things that we can clearly view and work to remediate. In this, we see, again, the total assets, 160,000. Out of that, there's 465 assets. And one of the things I really like about this slide is the assets not scanned in the last 30 days. So depending if you're scanning at least weekly, which we all should be scanning weekly, ideally, I'd love to see if everybody could scan daily. But if you're seeing a metric come up where there's assets that are not getting scanned, so either they're not being purged out because they've been decommissioned, or the scans are not run on a regular, persistent basis. We're missing assets. We're not getting the up-to-date picture of risk that we need, possibly. Or we have potentially extraneous data that we could use to potentially clean up our subscriptions. And the bottom graph on the bottom right corner is the distribution of true risk across the organization. Because again, we have the scores that will fall into those 4 brackets: critical, high, medium, and low, and that's what that distribution would look like across the organization. So in general, this graph, from our organizational perspective, is looking pretty good. And another true risk slide here is that we're looking for like critical assets. So any asset with a true risk score of 850 or above, which is considered critical. 203 fall into that category. And over here on the right side, we have, okay, out of our external-facing assets, how many of those external-facing assets, or how many critical vulnerabilities are associated with those assets, and how many of those are patchable by Qualys? In this case, it's 100%. So all the vulnerabilities that we had that are critical, we could turn around and use quals to patch them. And then here at the bottom is the assets exploited by malware, ransomware, and threat actors. That's 80,000, where a percentage of that is a small part of that pie graph there shows which of that is externally or publicly facing. No, that was the true risk portion of the report. We're using the true risk score, so this kind of gives you more of a risk perspective. And this, again, we're seeing the total number of full assets. And out of the 160,000 assets in our environment, we have 3.9 million vulnerabilities and 1.2 million which are critical. And in this graph here, we're breaking down, based on the threat intelligence that we have using our true risk technology, we're able to see which ones are in ransomware campaigns, or vulnerabilities in ransomware campaigns, vulnerabilities that are in malware campaigns, and which vulnerabilities are on the CISA known exploitive vulnerabilities list. And the yellow marker is, out of those, which can we patch? Which can we go ahead and actually apply and remediate to using the technology that we have? This screen, which is not fitting on the screen very well, but this is shows new, active, and the words are remediated here, but fixed, as we know, in the vulnerability standpoint. This is giving us a 30-day view of what that looks like. How many vulnerabilities have we identified in the last 30 days, and what is that trending looking like? And in this, so even though it's cut off here, that blue line going up is our remediated. So what we're doing here is we're able to show that our remediation owners are doing a good job. Right? They're the ones that are going out there. Yeah, we're identifying it, or we're certifying that the risk exists or does exist, but we need to be able to also let our remediation owners know that they're busting their butt out there every day to get this stuff cleaned up, that they're doing a fantastic job at doing that. This is a slide that shows over the past week, or 7 days, how this breakdown is. The number, it's like cut off on the side there, the top. So the number of assets. Thank you. All right, so the number of assets in the past week, how many were discovered, how many new assets came online, something that we didn't already have in quals before. In this case, it's 4,200. Out of the total number of pool of assets, our whole population, and out of how are they looking when they're coming online? This is actually pretty good, right? So what this is telling me with the big, huge green donut is that we're doing a great job in our CI/CD pipelines building good gold images that have what's considered a low amount of vulnerabilities, and they are not bubbling to the top. Just a handful of exceptions there. And from a vulnerability perspective, we have that breakdown as well. So this is my favorite slide right here. This is the remediation part, right? What can I do today to get to where I'm at, to get to where I want to go? Or what can I potentially do to reduce my score? In this case, we can reduce our score from 510 to 418, 18%, or 91 points by remediating these 10 vulnerabilities across our enterprise. And that's the so what. This is the plan that you have to help you understand and what to prioritize that you can start and take with you as a plan to go forward with your remediation activities. All right, and that is the end of the True Risk Report. Let's go ahead and go back to our slide here. There we go. All right, so here's our call to action. As Sid said, in the tool today, if you're already a CSAM customer, you can go up to the reports and then run the eSIM report that we have out there for you now. You can do that in your subscription today. But if you haven't, we've printed them out and they're ready for you to pick up. Or if you're ready to look into CSAM, please scan the QR code and we can get you a trial set up. On the other side, and this is the same with the tech debt report, the second one that he went over, and our True Risk Report, we want you to reach out to your TAM and let them know the feedback that you saw today, what you'd like to see, what you liked about it, what you think that could be improved, or if you'd like to have us create a copy for you and generate a True Risk Report for your organization so you can see what that looks like today. That's it.
All right. Thank you.
All right.